Committed to excellence. I don't think we can really come up with anything. We've already had it trademarked on our seal. It's kind of a phrase that has stuck with the district, and I believe it's something we need to stick with. Our mission, I took our existing mission statement, just kind of honed it down to a simple statement. Core values. The core values were developed from the feedback that I received from you from SLI. Remember the questions that I had all of you answer, and we compiled it. And I took the pieces of that and turned it into core values. And we will continue to revise these core values as we move forward with stakeholder meetings and community meetings and working towards developing more of the core values. And then our goals, we had this conversation at a previous meeting, looking at the state requirements with what they're requiring with the third grade reading and math, looking at the CCMR, and then basically our opportunities that we have for our students. And eventually those four components will find their way into my evaluation. Okay, everybody good so far? Okay, the next page is kind of color coded. This will be the black ring on the front page. As I said, the one thing being the alignment. What we're looking at aligning, our professional learning, our communication, our collaboration. Below that are the ways that we plan on doing that to our professional learning communities, our targeted in-services that we're conducting, and book studies. Like, okay. Our communication, we've already started our branding campaign. We're well into the branding campaign, our social media, and revising our website. And then collaboration, working with community partners, parents, and working campus to campus to foster better relationships between our campuses. The next page, this would be the white inner circle. And here we're looking at alignment of our systems, alignment in equity, and alignment in leadership. And under the systems, whenever I came in, I talked to all of our staff, and the thing I said that we really need to focus on is that we assess and look at things. Are we doing things as efficiently as we can? Are we doing them as effectively as we can? And we've added another word here, automaticity. Basically where those systems just become automatic. And right now they aren't. Under equity, making sure that we have equitable opportunities for students, equitable distribution of our resources, and equitable distribution in our equitable programs throughout our system. And in leadership, the whole focus is going to be on instruction, getting our principals to become instructional leaders, getting them out of the weeds by creating systems that help them to where they can get in classrooms and become more effective instructional leaders. Once again, conducting what we call principal PLCs, which are professional learning communities, and training for them, and setting clear expectations. What we expect them to accomplish by being instructional leaders and instructionally focused. And then the next one is all centered around curriculum. When we look at and we assess and we went through, the one thing that we said would really make the biggest impact in our district is our curriculum. Having a more aligned curriculum, when I met with all of our staff, one of the biggest issue was we don't have curriculum. We don't have the curriculum, we don't have resources, we don't have the programs, so aligning all of that and making sure that we have a viable curriculum, that we have the resources that support the curriculum. We have the textbooks to support it. We've implemented our, Dr. Boo will talk about more of this in a moment, but we've already implemented our phonics program and our guided reading program, and implementing and building that so that we can get to those goals where we have the third grade reading on level by third grade. And all of our students reading on group level by third grade. But looking at this, the three areas, calibration, curriculum, continuous improvement. Under the calibration, once again, having our teachers in each of our campuses conducting professional learning communities with our staff, conducting walkthroughs, and we're not talking just the token walkthroughs, we're talking effective walkthroughs with a form that is established where we're going to sit there and basically be monitoring those walkthroughs, how many they're doing. And it's consistent. We've now developed a consistent walkthrough form throughout our district. And of course, lessons and assessments. Are our lessons tying in with the assessments that we're asking? Then under curriculum, the 3 C's of curriculum: content, context, and cognitive type. Those are crucial. Dr. Boo will talk more about this in just a moment. Having a proper scope and sequence, having proper assessments that tie into the instruction, and instructional guides. And then under continuous improvement, our RISE presentations. Our principals we've already conducted one series of RISE, and we have another one coming up in February, okay? Where basically they have to report on their goals and their strategic plan for their campuses. Quarterly data review. We're on a 9-week cycle, having quarterly reviews and feedback loops, where we're getting the data and we're actually getting actionable data that we can actually utilize. So, if you look at this front page, that's all of it in a nutshell. And gearing down, alignment throughout everything in our organization is our big focus, but the one thing that's going to really impact our district the most is our curriculum. And the 2 things we're about to talk about here in just a second are our curriculum and our technology. Because without the technology, that impacts our curriculum and having the infrastructure. So I've asked Dr. Boo and Brian to come tonight to sit there and discuss the things that we have done, the things that we're doing, and the things that we plan on doing. And as with anything, there's costs associated with that. And what our strategic plan is of how we're going to attack these things, put them in place over the next 5 years. So, questions before we move on?
Is there going to be any discussion amongst us about some of this stuff here, like the vision and stuff, or you're saying this is all set in place?
My understanding at the last meeting was bring it to you and here we go. That's pretty much what I took from that meeting.
I just wonder and maybe it's just a semantic, but typically the center is your why statement. And here we have our why statement at the end, alignment. That's called, Simon Sinek calls the golden circle. And it's the why is in the middle. Everything you do is based off why you're doing it. You know, you think about like an Apple commercial. Apple doesn't tell you about all the parts of Apple. They tell you be different. They tell you the why, and then they tell you everything else after.
I can tell you why we don't have any alignment. And if we don't have alignment, nothing else is going to be effective.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's very important to you as the superintendent. I think it should be, but if this is what we're selling to the community, like if you say, well, what's our why? And we say alignment. Like your why is your vision. You say, what's your why? Our why is we're committed to excellence.
I think the underlying why that goes unspoken is we're doing this to help kids be successful, and we're all doing it because our kids need it. That's what we're doing it for. Without the systems, without the alignment, we're not going to be effective in what we're doing for our students.
I agree, but the purpose of this is that it doesn't have to be unspoken. Like this is telling you exactly what it is. Like I said, maybe it's semantics because it does say the vision, but nowhere in here does it actually have our why. Like our guiding light, our lighthouse, you know, the North Star.
Wouldn't your vision statement do that?
Right, but if this is what if this is our statement, like this is what we're saying, like this is what we're about.
So
Maybe it's not.
At the last meeting, whenever I was sitting there trying to propose the work session, this is what I was trying to do, is like get a cohesive idea of where you wanted to go with it.
And this
But
is a good
then-
start, but I think what Michael's saying is he's asking with this, is this the done deal?
No.
Or are you
It's a working
in for
document.
input? Yeah, that's all he's asking. But I think this is exactly what we were asking for, was
Right.
something that you had already gotten started, and now it's something that we can all discuss.
Well, I think what you're about to see whenever they start talking is that we are so far along in this, but these things have already, I keep saying that we have things already going. There are so many things that they're about to show you with those other documents, that you're gonna see how far along in this we are. So, now, does that mean that it's done? No, it's a strategic plan and a framework, and it's a working document, which means it can continually be revised. But we are already, you know, in the last year, we haven't sat idly by, we've been doing a lot of things already to put things in place. And so, I think at this time, we're ready for Dr. Liu to come up and we'll go through the curriculum part of it.
So I think that,
Did you have?
Before we
any
move
other
on,
questions?
I was just gonna say that to Michael's point, what if, I mean, like changing if you change the word from alignment to like direction or something like that, because I mean, this is what we, you know, because the vision and it has a circle, a ring on the outside, I'm wondering if, you know, I mean, just what we're naming this, you know, alignment is it's kind of education-ese. So, you know, if this is more like, you know, on target or target. Or,
Right, the middle's the bullseye.
Yeah.
The most important thing is what's in the middle. And we're saying the most important thing in Kennedale is alignment, which is very true for you. But as a district, if I'm a parent or I'm a kid, what's the most important thing? Alignment.
can I add something? We have had these conversations quite a bit. We've gone back and forth. One thing that we've talked about is the idea of putting equity in the center, equity, equal opportunities for access, and so all of the other things. So in terms of equity, that's what curriculum is. We're providing equitable opportunities and access for all students, so that no matter what kinds of strengths that you have or learning differences that you have, everybody has an equitable opportunity to move forward and be successful, even though success might look different in different areas. So it's in draft form, but that's some of the things.
That's what I was asking earlier. Like, is this a done deal or is this something that we're working through?
Well,
Like I said, this is why I wanted to have work sessions to do this, but,
Right.
you know, if we don't have work sessions, it's kinda hard to work through it.
well,
good.
it seems to me, again, we're talking about a target, but what you've described is a funnel. I mean, and so in the concept,
All of these things are being worked on.
well, I understand that, but we're talking about how it's presented. I mean, it's not, because if you shoot and get alignment and you've missed all the external rings, you haven't accomplished anything. I mean, you're moving from this point to whatever point is set. And maybe the issue is just looking at the way you present this, because you present it as a funnel, and if the one thing, or Michael's, the why, is the point of the target, well, again, is that improving student success or improving student outcomes? If that's the center of the target, the ultimate goal, maybe you show the alignment as the pathway through all these things. It's how you
can
present
go
it.
to the next page where you have, you know, like I said, it's a working document, you can add a why statement on there, you know, I mean, that's not.
Well, your vision is your why. I mean, typically.
What I'm interpreting is, this is a visual of what he's trying to do. It's not gonna be able to put all the information on this one visual. That's why he has additional pages.
You're not putting this up like, so, I mean,
Is this going to?
Like I said, it's a working document.
Yeah.
But I
There's a
mean,
reason why we
was-
have focus
what
and everything
this-
made right now. I'm sorry?
okay, that's what I was like, I mean, I thought this was for us to kind of focus on this.
I mean, eventually, I would like to have something like this that represents what we're doing, but, you know, whatever semantics we wanna get into of what we call it or whatever.
To me, if you put the commitment to excellence as a title across the top of it, that explains what you're trying to do. That's part of what you're doing, but you're not gonna be able to make a statement as far as this is that one little thing that I can put into an image with only a couple of words. It's gonna.
Committed to excellence.
Yeah, and, you know, part of that commitment to excellence. If you saying change the center to commitment to excellence from alignment, you know, it's not
Like I said, it's not, I don't know if it's important. I was just asking, is this set in stone? Are we, because to like Leslie was saying, like, I think if we're gonna be commitment 2025, like, this isn't commitment 2025. This is like the one image that represents what it is that we're trying to encompass. Anyways, it's just, when I saw that, I thought, alignments, it looks odd to have alignment in the
Alignments
middle.
is
This is, like I said, why you have work sessions.
Okay.
But I do think this is a good start, a good way to focus it, good way to illustrate it. Like I said, we're not gonna always agree with all of the wording, but this is a good start.
Well, to me, it almost seems like this is your first page, Michael. This is our why. This is how we're getting there.
But all this can't be a why. I think that's what the book is saying, like.
I know, I don't mean, it has your why at the top, sorry.
Right.
And it has our mission, it has our goals. This is how we're getting, and this is how we're getting to do, students will read on level by grade 3. We're gonna have alignment or curriculum, equity,
Or if you,
that's my
the commitment to
little
excellence,
brain.
everything in the circle is going toward that, or going to make that happen. So, like I said, it's a start.
Was there a goal or a deadline on when you hope to present this, 2025? Like a date?
Before the next school year.
Before next school year, okay.
Like I said, we have Holly T from Mansfield who helped work with, she's retired, but she worked with Mansfield in their strategic development and had her coming in to work with our stakeholders and run some sessions with us to get more inputs. Like I said, it's not a done deal, it's a working document. There may be other tweaks to it, but the reality is, if we don't have alignment, which right now we don't have alignment, everything that we have some alignment, but we're not completely aligned, and they'll kind of show some of this as we go through here. That's a big point of our infrastructure, and why the need for the infrastructure for technology is there. That alignment is a key, crucial point of what we're trying to do. Now, is that our overall guiding focus? No. If you go, that outer ring is our guiding focus, to me. That's our vision, that's our mission, that's our core beliefs. That's what's generating everything that we are doing, are that outer ring. And now we're focusing down inside of that, what really we've got to sit there and do to make our district really, really great. All right, so now we're gonna run out of time if we don't get rolling here. So I'm gonna have Dr. Vu come up. We're gonna go through the next document.
Okay, so I think that Tracy put this all in your folders. I will say that,
It's color coded, but it was 36 pages, and so we put a tiny URL at the top for you. So if you have your iPads and you want to look at that instead, that's an option as well for you. So this is our department strategic plan, and by department, it's the building attached to the main administration building. It's curriculum and student services. So we have our goals here, and as you may recall, this is the same document that I presented to you several weeks ago whenever we had the other work session in the library at the high school.
Back up, that work session was basically showing you the comprehensive needs assessment that has been going on, that we've been doing. From that needs assessment, now we are honing into what we're targeting strategically and how it's being laid out.
So since that time, we've made some progress, and so I tweaked this document just a little bit. So we have, we have 6 targeted areas in curriculum. So we have the policy review and compliance. That is our groundwork. That is our foundation. So it always goes back to, what does the policy say? Whenever questions come up, the way that we ensure equity, consistency, continuity is that we always go back to the policy. And so we want to make sure that our policy is grounded in the idea that all students have the opportunity and access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So it doesn't matter if my child is in kindergarten, has this teacher or this teacher, whether it's this campus or this campus, that we all know that my child is going to get taught the standards, all of the standards, and they're going to have equitable access to resources, and they're going to have similar experiences. So the curriculum is the what, not the how. We absolutely do not want to take away any teacher autonomy to come in and to add their own flair, but we want to make sure that we're teaching all of the standards and at the level of rigor that's required by the grade level. And so that's where having a curriculum in place is really a driving force in creating those opportunities for kids. So we're going to start with the policy review. We have, and you can look at this, and I'll tell you one thing I've said a lot. I make a lot of documents, I create a lot of things, that something that's really easy to do is to look at something that someone else has already created and pick it apart and talk about how you can make it better. What's really hard to do is to create it from scratch. And so in this case, I've created this from scratch, and this is a work session, and I welcome feedback, whether it's now or later. If you see something, you say, you know what, maybe you should think about this, or maybe this is something that you can do to make it better. I welcome that. You can send me an email to get over, it's 36 pages, so I won't be able to get through all of it tonight, but you've seen this once, and I wanted to show you again. One thing that I added was Texas school procedures. So I was looking for some different things, because I have spent over the past 6 months since I've been in this position, hours and hours and hours creating forms and working on handbooks and just trying to establish some continuity in our processes across the districts. And TASB creates our policies. We just did a policy review, so you're familiar with that. Texas School Procedures is out of Region 10, and they take the legal policies and they create procedures and processes and forms aligned with those legal policies. So when the law changes, the form changes. So I reached out to several different districts who are using this, and one deputy superintendent from Little Elm, I said, I hope you remember me. We worked together when you were a principal in Eagle Mountain. He said, of course I remember you. And I asked him, do you use this? Do you like it? And is it worth the money? And he said, well, let me ask you this. He said, do you have a full-time person in Kennedale who's just devoted to administrative regulations? If the answer is no, yes, it's absolutely worth the money. So we've been kind of looking at it, and just today I had 2 questions come up from principals, one about CPS, just a situation that came up, and I still had the trial, so I logged in and I said, oh, this is wonderful. Here's the checklist and here's all these things, and it has all the laws, and as opposed to trying to find it. So it has RTI forms, it has, so it was CPS, and something else came up with one of our special populations. So there was another question. So it was really helpful. So I added this today. So it's $2 per child. So I think that is going to really, in terms of alignment, let's start with the policy. Let's make sure that the foundation is in place so that we're compliant, we're aligned with the law, and then we can focus on best practices and really building upon all of those great things. Okay, the next piece is the curriculum management plan. So curriculum management plan is basically a strategic plan for curriculum nerds. So it sets out, it says, this is our goal, this is our vision. It goes through, it has our assessment policies and procedures. It has our professional learning plan. It's based on, we have some professional learning opportunities based on compliance. This is what we do because this is what the law says. Yes, sir. I'm on page 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the copy machine was a little wonky.
It took me a while.
Sorry about that. So sorry. I put page numbers for that very reason. So this is in development. We need some time here, and then we're having an instructional resource review. So we started out with all kinds of resources bought from all different funding sources, and so we've been working on, and we have that. We have a database, and so within the database it has by content area every instructional resource that we've purchased in the district, and you can pull up different reports. You can say, I want to know what we have for social studies in high school purchased with title funds, and you can pull that. I want to know what we have in math purchased with IMA funds for middle school, and you can pull all these different reports. So now we have the foundation, and we're ready to move to the next step, which is really using our data to make decisions about the instructional resources that we purchase. So, we see that we have a need in this particular area or with this particular population of students. What kind of instructional resources can we purchase using our different funding sources to meet that need? And then of the ones that are available, what's the most cost effective? How much does it cost versus the benefit that we're going to get? So that's part of the instructional resource review. If you look in the middle column, it's under what's needed, and then the next one is the cost. So we created the database. That's where we start. So I'm moving to page 3. And then we also implemented Bright Bites, which is a technological resource that seems like it's going to be really neat. So it looks at our student usage. So anytime they get into Chrome, it tracks everything that they're doing, and then it links it to their assessment data. So it links to their universal screening data, it links to STAR data, it links to SAT, ACT if we want to set that up. But basically it says, this group of students spent a lot of time using this particular resource, and then it shows the progress in their assessment data, which is really neat. So it's a neat way to track usage versus student progress and student growth. And so I think that's going to be a really great tool as we're doing our needs assessment and we're using data to drive our decisions about instructional resources. Money is a finite resource. We can't buy everything that we want, but we want to make sure that our kids have what they need. And we want to make sure that every student has an opportunity to make progress and to grow, and different students need different things. And so we're going to be able to...
We started looking at assessment. That was one of the things, was we had so many programs and so many softwares and so many other things going on, but how much was it being utilized? The answer was, it was inconsistent all over the place. We did the surveys and, and what from grade level to grade level and from classroom to classroom, consistency, which is where we go back to the whole alignment piece. Bright Bites gives us a way to sit there and actually track what's being utilized and how it's being utilized.
So I'm a sixth grade teacher, or I'm a sixth grade math interventionist, and I want to see, this student's struggling here, and I know, these are some places, some opportunities we have for this student. So then now I can go back and I can see, where were they in kindergarten, where were they in first grade? Oh, look, they're on grade level. They dipped in third grade, and then they're making a year of progress, every year after that, but because they got a year behind in third grade, so then you can notice trends, you can analyze trends, you can say, is that an instructional casualty? Is that maybe the teacher was out sick for the whole year, or is that, do we have a learning disability? It gives you more information to make data-driven decisions. So
you're going to be tracking that by teacher and
it's by student and by program.
okay.
Yeah.
If you notice a trend with the teacher or a particular group of teachers.
Am I going to dig into that more? Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited about it. We don't have all the data yet because we haven't linked to our universal screener, which we've only administered one time. So we can't see where, from here to here, we can't do much with it yet, but we are well on our way.
How far down does Chromebooks, do we have Chromebooks now?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Yeah, so.
The next cycle, we'll talk about this more on the next section, but as we start cycling more in, we'll get more Chromebooks down lower grade level.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed when I came in is in looking at instructional resources, what I heard a lot is, oh, they really like that, so we're going to buy it. And so what I'm proposing is, of course, what teachers are comfortable with and what they enjoy and what students enjoy. Engagement is an important piece, but I think we should also use some data. Like, let's look and see, maybe they like doing it, but I like doing a lot of things that aren't necessarily going to help me make academic progress. And so just being more intentional and thoughtful about those decisions and the way that we're making those decisions and the way that we're using our money is a goal that we're working towards. And we're really excited about that. The next one, this is also on page 3, is systematic monitoring. So inspect what you expect, right? So we've laid the foundation with our policies and our procedures. We're ensuring compliance. We're working on our handbooks. We have forms in place so that we all do the same thing. So if I'm a parent and I'm at Patterson and I have, something, I'm filling out some field trip form, then that field trip form, which is aligned with all the laws regarding field trips, is the same form I'm going to see at Arthur, is the same form I'm going to see at the junior high, so that it's helpful. If I'm a parent and I have kids in 2 different campuses, and this is the policy at this campus and this is the policy at this campus, and they're different, I get those phone calls, and sometimes it's confusing for the parents, and it's I think that we're setting ourselves up to build trust with our community.
When I came in, and it seemed like we had universal screeners. No consistency within the universal screeners. How many
We had a
different
different screener at every grade level.
Huh? 4 different ones. Now we've moved to one universal screener that will go from kinder or pre-K
To 10.
to 10th grade.
So that's actually on page
And
3
that
at the
data will
bottom.
follow with them.
Yeah, you can see what we're going to be looking at. So we have the required universal screener is reading and math, but we can track reading and math. There's also a writing component, which I think is really important in terms of where our assessment is moving for STAR. Beginning in 2022, we're going to have reading embedded on all, on all of our content area tests, along with gridables and math. So I think it's important to really track the progress, and I identify places where we can serve our students, differently or more effectively at various grade levels. We have the Bright Bites, which I mentioned. So one thing that we have started, we've laid the foundation for, and we are building upon now, is ways to systematically monitor, but monitor in a really collaborative, supportive way. So Mr. G mentioned our district-wide walkthrough form. So we have that form loaded into DMAC. So a principal can go in on their iPad, on their phone, and it's based on best practices from Fundamental 5, if you're familiar with that. So they can go in, they can track it. When they hit submit, it automatically sends the teacher an email. Then we can pull reports at the district level so we can see, oh, Mr. Cagle conducted 287 walkthroughs yesterday. That's amazing, Mr. Cagle. And then we can pull it, brand new principal yet to be named, because I would never do this for this kind of example. 0 ever, right? So then we have a way, and so he talked about a dashboard at some point, moving to that, so that you all can track how many walkthroughs are we having. We can see, what kind of feedback we have.
The maps will also help with the 4 goals that I have proposed that tie in, that I said with my evaluation that I'm going to talk about later when we get to the superintendent's report. But those 4 goals, but that grade 3, on level by grade 3, reading and math, that maps having consistent data to be able to do that. If we have 4 different screeners and we're all over the place by grade level, there's no way that we can have consistency with what we're doing. So that data would be all over the place.
So in terms of the walkthroughs, what's really neat about it, as a teacher, there were years where I only had walkthroughs when I was being evaluated. So when you're being evaluated, that's not really a time for learning necessarily. Sometimes I just wanted feedback. Tell me, what do you see? What do you notice? Aligned with, best practices. So we know that when teachers are up and moving around and they're working directly with students, that students make more progress and faster than when teachers are behind their desk, behind a computer, and the students are working by themselves. We know that, right? So on our walk-through form, that's one of the things that principals will be looking for. So
Let them know that we're too close to 7. You want to let the people know outside that we're.
Come in.
yeah, they can come in.
So let me ask you, we don't want to read this, you can read for yourselves, don't want to go through word for word, but can you kind of follow through what she's put together here and have a pretty good understanding what we're doing, what we plan on doing,
Okay.
what we're going to do in the future?
So I'll just tell you, if you keep flipping through, then you can see, and starting on there's a total cost projection on page 9 for your reference, and then starting on page 11, this is broken down by student services. So these are all the different areas, and so if you look at the version online, what you can see is anything in bold is what's required by HB3. It's a lot, especially when in regards to academics, just a lot of new things that we've had to work on implementing. And then anything in green, and you can see this if you go to use the tiny URL, are things that are new. So what we're trying to show you is what we've been working on, what we're working on now, and what's coming. And this isn't everything. This is just the next 12 to 18 months.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So as I said, I welcome feedback. I'm eager to hear your ideas, but for the sake of time, I'll step away. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay. Now switching to the next one, technology. Well, Brian kind of go through real quickly, same thing at the meeting where we had the long meeting, we had the comprehensive needs assessment, we tried to cover every area. Tonight we're just trying to focus on 2 areas so that we can break it down. We're trying to break it down into chunks.
Okay, so the first thing I got with our team last January or so it's been almost a year, but we came up with this mission statement. So for our department, and this is just us, so we see the mission of IT is to support a safe, efficient, and reliable technology environment that facilitates teaching and learning. So we're kind of the infrastructure backbone for what the instruction team is trying to do, and really the business side as well of everything. Everything relies on our network infrastructure now. If it's offline, we're stopped. We're not doing anything. And I think we talked about last time, we're kind of at the end of a phase in our network infrastructure where it's time to replace things. The equipment's getting old, and there's just newer ways of, as we've we've adopted one-to-one more often. Our phone systems relying on our network infrastructure. Our critical communications relies on it. Just our day-to-day business. So there's cabling standards that we want to look at adhering to. And that's one of the I too have there's a lot of things on here that we've done, and to kind of spare some of those details, you can read through that. But one of the first things we want to do this year that I want to talk about is replacing our cabling throughout the school district. That's a really big item, and we have a pretty unique opportunity this year with that through E-rate funding. There's our district, I mean, we don't have the final numbers in yet, but we have estimates based on last year's enrollment and our free and reduced, and the budget so far district-wide it's around $600,000, and we would pay 40% of that based on our current free and reduced count. So we're not going to have total numbers until bids start coming in, but we'd like to go to bid to recable our network this year for all the campuses, which will help us with network performance. We don't want to replace all of the switches and everything and still have performance issues because we have bad cabling. This is literally in networking, it's called layer 1. This is the physical connectivity layer, so it's important. And we expect to go to bid for that. We're hoping to, and get that put in. Then in the very next year, they've changed E-rate rules, so our cycle actually will reset next year, so we get a full refreshment next year. Another note on that, because they have changed those E-rate rules, we're getting more per student this year than we will next year. That's why I say there's kind of a unique opportunity for cabling. Also, this year we're under the current rules where if you buy something with E-rate, you can't move it between campuses. It has to stay there for a certain amount of time, like 3 years, I think that is. Whereas next year, they've made it district-wide. So for switches, if I have a port access problem, I can move them between campuses without a problem next year. So that's kind of where we are on that. Next year, doing the switches. The year after that, we're looking at. I'm just jumping straight to the back because I have a timeline back there.
We've got about 4 sections. Okay, so
We do.
there are 4 goals, and there are 4 sections that kind of tie in with those goals. But under each one of those sections, you'll notice off on the right-hand side in the grayed out area, it shows you what tasks have already been completed. Mm-hmm. And once again, a large portion of this has already been done, but there are big chunks that are coming. And that's basically kind of what he's trying to show you once again. It is.
Some of these were already in place right before I got here, but we completed the projects as I got here. So that talking about the cabling, we've upgraded our internet connection going to the service provider. We went from 1 gig to 10 gig connectivity, and that same connectivity has been accomplished between each campus. Those fiber connections have been transferred over to us, and it's higher capacity. We've done some things with. Well, it's easy for me to get into the weeds on all this stuff, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time. I get excited about it, and I'll wind up talking a long time. But you can kind of go through. We've done some things with the Chromebooks as well, kind of going towards equity. I think establishing guidelines for so the fees and things like that are the same across the districts now. The librarians and our IT team can say, hey, so if you break a screen, this is what it costs. And we've started putting My School Bucks in place for those Chromebooks, so parents can pay the same way they would with their lunch. They can use a credit card. We want to expand that into other areas, and some of our principals are really excited about that. We just have to get some people at the campuses to own some of that and help us manage it, so it's not just Rhonda doing it. But they're on board and they're happy with it, and we're excited about moving forward with that. And a big thing that'll be coming too is there's a lot of legislation that's been passed regarding cybersecurity. So we're going to see that. There's kind of a to be determined on that as far as the next 5 years, because as we've started a self-assessment it's a 40-point Texas DIR security framework that we're adopting. We'll share all this with you this summer, the results of our self-assessment, where we want to be, and then the steps we have to take to get to where we want to be with it. And there may be some things in there that we need to do, but we don't know yet. There's some training we're going to have to do. We're waiting on the service center to become certified, hopefully, so they'll give us the best pricing for that, if any. So,
touch on is that there's a section in here called safety, and we are lumping our safety in with, because we're looking at camera systems, electronic door access, monitoring systems that would help with our safety and security. But there's also the security of cybersecurity, which is a big reason for the network, and having an infrastructure that is very, very sound. And so those are all considerations and concerns.
We're doing a lot if reading through Dr. Vu's plans, there's a lot of references to technology resources in there, and our business relies on technology, so we have to have this network infrastructure. It has to be secure. So there's a lot in that we'll be doing. Yes, next year we were looking at security camera systems, electronic access, and the year after that, our phone system will need to be replaced. That's another really major thing. I think our phone system's around 15 years old, and it accomplishes picking up the phone and talking to each other. And modern phone systems do way more. I think once we get there and get into that, we're going to wonder how we how we did without it for so long. But that's going to be awesome. And then we get to refresh Chromebooks and refresh laptops after that. So and eventually all these things will cycle through again. But I'm excited that we're talking about these cycles and everything. I think we're laying a good foundation.
At the timeline at the back, budgetary timeline, 2019-20, we're right now in that time, and we have E-rate that's coming up, and we'll find out more in January, but those funds have to be expended by June.
Correct. The funding goes into place. The way it works is we will put out a bid through our E-rate consultant, and that'll actually go out probably in January or so. I expect we'll start getting some results back in February. We'll have to walk the facilities with whoever's interested in bidding on that, and then we'll have to get an answer in March. So depending on those timelines, we may have to talk to you before the March board meeting if it falls in between February and March. So we'll have to get a decision once we have our final numbers in and go from there. Then they'll fund it in July. There's two options with it. You can do what's called, and there's the option where we would, if we needed it really quick, we could pay up front and then get reimbursed, or there's the option where we wait till July 1 when they will fund their part of it, and we just pay the 40%. So I think that's kind of where we're leaning with it. And it'll be a 6 to 9 month cabling project, and after that we're talking about switches. So really it's a 2-year infrastructure project that's going to kind of all bleed into each other, and we have to do it in a way that's least disruptive to our business, our day-to-day business here. It's kind of like
the E-rate funds, to use it or lose it.
This year it is, because of the changes that they've made. That usually it'll work on a 5-year cycle. So we've not done anything with E-rate over the past. This is actually year 6 on us. So we have that. That's why we have that pool built up. And again, because they've changed those rules, they've given us an extra 20% basically per student, and that will absolutely. We all reset next year, and that goes away if we don't spend it.
Doing the cabling will last us for
25-year warranty, on the cables. So this is one that once this is in place, the caveat to that is as long as it's installed by a certified installer and it's done to standards, this is 25 years.
And then on the 2021 cycle, using the E-rate funds that year, we can address the other upgrades with the switches and things that we talked about. And the thing with that, there's going to be less restrictions, and we can move switches from campus to campus where you can't do that right now.
Yeah.
So if a switch goes out, but we have an extra one, we can shift it.
Until we get a warranty replacement, because the whole idea of this is to get us equipment that we can call and have warranty replacements on it, and our current equipment is not in that situation currently. But we have some spares at the moment, but we just need to get in a good solid, it's just time, that's all.
So there are some costs with the curriculum, some things that we're gonna have to do, not as substantial as the technology, which that goes without saying. The technology is costly, but so are the cameras and the electronic door accesses. You know, one thing that we are gonna have to look at this year that we would like to put on this cycle would be the audio visual. We are, if you notice,
Yes.
microphone, we were losing, last time we weren't even able to video. And, you know, our audio is suspect. So upgrading the technology in this building so that we can conduct our board meetings and continue to do what you want to do is there.
Yeah, we started kind of talking about that, I think in the previous board meeting, but because we've got a couple of quotes on it, and well, we need another quote, and not necessarily for monetary reasons, but just because we just have to find a good match with a vendor, and we're expecting one of those to come in anytime, and hopefully we'll have something to show you by the next board meeting in January.
Our goal is to get on the 6-year cycle with E-rate to where on our 6th year, we're pretty much at the life expectancy. We're not pushing it to the 7th year where most equipment's gonna fail, but we're at the 6-year cycle where it's a good time to replenish. So if we look at our timeline, pushing this out over a 5-year period and how we map this out, we start looking at 22 and 23, really all we're doing is just our Chromebooks refresher.
Yeah.
And 24, 25 would be E-rate again. But you're not gonna have to do all the things that we're doing right now if we get the infrastructure built.
Yeah, we're just on a refresh cycle for our switches, and that does tend to, one of the other changes they made for E-rate starting next year is it's a permanent deal. So that's just gonna be ongoing, so until they change it.
4 minutes until we're supposed to start the.
Yeah, are there any questions on our network infrastructure, or? I mean, I'm sure you'll have some, so feel free to ask, because there's a lot in here that I didn't talk about. I was trying to really hurry through it, so I didn't run out of time, but.
And with the curriculum, you got a lot of stuff to process, so, but I did want you to see, there are a lot of things already in place. A lot of things that we're already currently doing right now that are already done, and then things that we're already currently doing. And I will brag on these two ladies right here, and Miss Vicky, who's not here. They have been an integral part of trying to get a lot of these things and these systems. Everything we're talking here and all this stuff that we're, systems. Putting systems in place, but then having a way to monitor those systems.
Is there a way in the future, this is great, so a lot of hard work, thank you, Brian and Dr. Vu. Is there a way in the future that we could have this in our hands or in the board book before the meeting, so we could look through some of this stuff?
They've been working very diligently to try to, that's a lot of information to try to condense down, and we're working to try to do that, but I mean, she was working on it up until, you know. One, they're perfectionists.
I get it, but I'm
saying,
they wanted
that way you don't feel so rushed, we could have all these
It's
questions and
really
stuff
good
for you ahead of
feedback.
time, so, yeah.
Great suggestion, yes.
Which is why this is a work session, and like I said, if you have questions, and, you know, and as we've said many times, you know, you're more than welcome to come up and visit with us and call, and we'll.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, this is a draft. As I'm sitting here, even before coming up here, I'm going, okay, there's some things, there's some wording, and there's just some things. And to that note, though, I see this as something I think. I speak for everyone. We want this to be more than a checkbox of a document that we say we have. We want this to be a living, breathing thing that we're living by, you know. And I want it to be updated regularly, because I think it needs to be if it's alive. So there we go. I'll be quiet.
The thing is that, yeah, we're working on systems and working on alignment, but what's best for kids? That's our guiding principle. What's best for kids, and that's what every one of us is working for. You know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything further?
I think this is an introduction though, right? This is not the end. We've got.
We still got facilities, we still have TR, we still have everything that we went through in that needs assessment. We still have more coming. But it really kind of depends on how many work sessions y'all want to have.